Mom, your life has been an incredible journey, a remarkable journey, and you've done an incredible job of archiving your life. And I had the privilege when you turned 80 of making you an album and going through your keepsakes, your documents, your photos. And now that you're 95, I have the privilege to represent, as your youngest daughter, representing Joyce, Wayne, Wendell, and Karis in having this conversation with you. And so we're wanting you to tell some of your stories so we can know you better, so your grandchildren can know you better, and generations to come can know who you are and the God you love so deeply. And I'm going to hand you your album so you can hold it while we talk. And one of the things we're going to do is talk about the houses you've lived in. You've lived in many, and we're going to highlight the most significant ones, which there's about 14 that are most significant. And the first one that you lived in, you refer to as a railroad house.
Right.
So you were born September 23rd, 1920, and you came home to this railroad house. And we'd like to first hear about your parents. And so tell me about Grandpa Klaassen, your dad.
Well, Dad was a friendly person. He never knew a stranger. And he was very gifted. Although he only had about 5th grade education, he was able to do plumbing, electrical work, and he was a musician in the church and was just a jack of all trades. And he played games with us, which was very interesting to me that a father would take that much time for us. But music was his great love. And so he taught my sister and me how to play an instrument from the time I was 5 years old.
And this was Mountain Lake, Minnesota.
Right.
Right. And what about your mom?
Mother was a hard-working mother. She was a praying mother, and she kept a big, big garden. So that's how she taught us girls to work. Hoeing, weeding, just about anything was quite the thing.
And what did she remind you of often?
Oh, one of her saying was, girls, don't forget to pray. I'd be scampering up the steps going to bed. That was the last thing she always said, don't forget to pray.
But in German.
In the Low German, it would be, Kinder, vergeet nicht het beden.
Okay, and then you had a sister, Adeline, who's 5 years older.
Yes, and she was such a proud sister. She told everybody about how I'd been born and how she was told. She was wondering where was Mother? Where's Mother? And the grandmother was there, and she said, you just wait, we'll see. And so she took her to show where I was. And so she wanted to give me her dolls and everything right away.
And then you had a friend, Mandy.
Oh yes, dear Mandy. She lived right through the alley from the time I was 5 years old. She would stand at the corner of their barn and I at the corner of our house. And with our fingers, we'd do like this, come over, come over. And she wouldn't, and I was the one who always ran over there because her father was a lumberyard man and had built a playhouse and with table and chairs, and what little girl wouldn't do that? Yeah. Run away to play there.
And also there at the railroad house was the beginnings of faith for you. Oh, and yeah. You said you often, well, Sunday school was a key part. Tell us that story.
Well, what I remember about that was that the church had very steep steps that we went up to, and the Sunday school teacher even spoke in Low German. Mm-hmm. We learned Low German. And she had this tripod with a great big picture that she would show us and tell us, and then she would make it very exciting because next Sunday, she says, and she'd roll up the one page and flip it back down and show, just get us excited to know what we would have the next Sunday. But we always went home with a little one, a similar one.
A little card.
Yeah.
A little card.
But that's where the Sunday school, where my faith began.
The next house, house number 2, is you didn't live there very long, but you called it the Mouse House. Why do you call it the Mouse House?
The Mouse House was on Main Street of town. It was more like a dormitory, long, big house. But the washboard of the house was about 1.5 inches or 2 inch separated from the floor, so we could see the mice running through the house.
Okay, and that house had an outhouse.
Yes, it had an outhouse.
Why was that outhouse special for you?
Well, that's where I sewed for my little celluloid dolls. They had the stretch arms and they had the stretch legs, and I took Mother's bag of material, which I wasn't supposed to do. That's why I'd go out there to sew.
You go hide.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, house number 3 probably has the most meaning to us, your children, and it's the one we know as Grandpa and Grandma Klaassen's house. And you lived there from the age 6 until you got married. So, because this was Minnesota and there were blizzards, what was the...
Oh, the blizzards, those were his happy times because it was family time. We'd get out the carom board and play games and sit around the table, just the 4 of us. And my father liked to tell jokes. And sometimes the veins would start showing on the sides of his temples, and my sister and I'd get scared and try to quit.
Because he was laughing so hard?
Yes.
Oh. And then you would also, during the blizzards and being in the home, playing music together, right?
Yes. Well, when we did that, we were more like a country style playing, because Mother played harmonica, my father played guitar, and the sister played the piano, and I played spoons.
Age 12, that's when you accepted Jesus as your Savior.
Yes, we had services in our church, and my girlfriend and I, Mandy and I, decided that maybe we should do that, whatever that meant. So we were walking to church, and sure enough, that evening, I felt the conviction in my heart. And when the invitation was given to accept the Lord Jesus Christ, I decided yes. So I stood, and of course some of the ladies, the minister's wife, dealt with me and talked with me. So that's when I accepted the Lord as my own personal Savior.
And then at 18 is when you ended up graduating from high school and then being baptized.
Yes.
Where did you get baptized?
I was 18 years old and was at a Bible conference in Lake Okoboji, Iowa, and Arnold's Park. And I decided I wasn't baptized earlier because I was afraid of water. I was really afraid. But then the minister said we could wear bathing caps. And I said, oh, Lord, I think I can do that. So I decided to be baptized there.
Well, just about that time is when you met Daddy. So we'd like to hear your love story, a little bit about your courtship with Dad.
Well, we met through, maybe the introduction was at that very time at the Arnold's Park conference. They were at that talent contest. He with his brothers sang a song about they say that up in heaven there isn't any snow and where the watermelons grow. So it's kind of funny, but, and my sister and I came home and said, you know what? They should have had the first place. They had such good harmony. And then she says, by the way, you know what? I think that one fella would be a good boyfriend for you, which I didn't think was anything possible.
And why is that?
I thought he was a far higher caliber than I was, a different level of life, so I thought he'd never look at me.
But then you did meet.
Yes.
And what happened then?
Well, by my sister's doings, she was a matchmaker. So she had us get together to play for a farewell party, a bonfire service for kids that were leaving for college. So she had it arranged, and sure enough, she had it done. So that's how we got started.
Okay, and so then you both ended up at Tabor
Yes.
College, and you were going to be, or you had been voted in as presidents of YMCA and the YWCA?
Yes.
And then what happened?
That summer, he was teaching Daily Vacation Bible School up in the northern peninsula of Michigan, and I was in the northern part of Minnesota. And so we were corresponding, and he wrote, and he said that he'd had this call to come to Meade, Kansas, but he wasn't going to go single. He didn't want to go single. Would I consider getting married? So he said, take this letter with you to my folks and show it to them. And so he proposed by letter.
Through a letter.
Yes.
Okay, and then your wedding day was August 29, 1942. You were 22 years old.
Yes.
And you've mentioned that after the ceremony, on your way between the ceremony and the reception, something special happened. What happened?
Yeah, that was a thrilling thing because at the ceremony, we didn't have the privilege to kiss. And so going down the stairs, he just grabbed me and hugged me, and it was such a thrilling thing.
And kissed.
Yes.
So together then, in a Model A Ford, you headed to Meade, and Daddy was going to be a pastor at...
He was called to teach
okay.
at the school. But during that time, then they asked him whether he would become pastor of a church.
Okay.
So
that house that you lived in, your first house as a couple, we've heard you refer to it as the chicken coop house.
Yes.
Why was it called the chicken coop?
Well, it really was. It had been a chicken house that they fixed into 3-bedroom.
So how did you, what were those early days like there in Meade?
We had to learn to know the people. We had to learn to adjust to living together, but it was no problem. When you're in love, everything is okay.
Yeah, that's what you had said, it was exciting.
Yes, exciting.
Time.
Yes, it was exciting.
But also during that time when you started to try to have children, you weren't able to get pregnant right away, and you ended up
7 years, 7 dry years.
And then what happened? You ended up choosing to fast, correct?
Yes, we did. We had a 15-day time of fasting and prayer. It's amazing what you can all get done if you don't eat. And so we broke that fast, but then wasn't too long after that I found out that I was pregnant.
And so what did you choose to name your first child?
We named her Joyce because we were joyful. God blessed.
And we actually even have the telegram that Dad sent your parents announcing her birth.
Yeah, I was surprised to find that.
Yeah. Okay, house number 5 was in Pasadena, and that was from September 1949 through 1952, and Daddy was a teacher, or he was studying at Fuller
Seminary.
Right. How did you adjust to the climate of California?
Oh, it was wonderful. I didn't have to put on snowsuits or things like that. I could just put Joyce into the little stroller and go on out and go walking or go shopping, whatever I wanted to do. It was great.
But then a little brother came along. Wayne was born. And how did he get his name?
Well, we didn't have a definite name for him at the time he was born, but his daddy was preaching while I was at the hospital, and so the nurses gave him the name of B. Baum Wiebe, because he was 10 pounds and 1/2 ounce.
He was so big.
He was so big.
But Wayne, his actual name Wayne is from what? Wayne, the band director?
Yes, Wayne King used to be a teenage orchestra that I liked, and so I liked the sound of it.
Okay. And what ministries were you involved in those years in Pasadena?
Well, at the seminary, the women had a group named Philothean Fellowship. So I got to be on the staff as a publicity chairman. Since Orlando, my husband, took care of the chapel, was a minister of the chapel, we had a group called Cradle Roll, and we would check out the newspaper where births had taken place, and we'd go send a card and ask whether they would care to have that child put on the cradle roll, and then later we'd go and probably make a call.
Visit them.
Yeah, at Cradle Roll.
And then the next house was Dalmany. What took you to Dalmany?
Well, the call came. My husband had a call coming to him 3 different times asking him whether he would come. They had looked around and they felt that he was the one who should come because that was his home where he had been raised to begin with. But he said no, he didn't think he wanted to until he'd graduated from college. But that wasn't to be, because he felt maybe after having a call for the 3rd time, maybe it was God's calling. So he considered, and the verses that came to him at that time were, "Say not thou, I am but a child." And another verse was, "Thou shalt be called a repairer of the breach." That church had some problems, and he felt maybe he was the one to go to be there to serve them, which we then did.
And then a 3rd one was born, and that's Wendell.
Yeah, Wendell was my little Canadian. So.
And you had a little story about a red snowsuit?
Oh yeah, he was so cute. In that red snowsuit, putting it on to go to church or go places, it had the zipper from the bottom of 1 foot and up to the neck. And it was so handy to put. He was so cute in it.
So then it wasn't long after that, then you went on to Omaha, Nebraska. And the first home there, or your home there, was the first one you actually owned.
The first place we ever owned. Daddy was asked to teach at the Grace Bible Institute, and then also served the church there, Grace Church. So.
And then you started not feeling very well, and you decided to go to the doctor.
After 5 years.
After 5 years.
After 5 years.
Wendell.
I was expecting another
one, and that was Karis.
Karis.
And how did you choose her name?
Well, we were going to call her Grace. And my husband said, no, we have so many Graces in the family, we don't want to call her Grace. And so one morning he woke up, he says, I've got it. We'll call her the Greek word for grace, which was charis, but we called Karis. So we called her, or Grace, Karis.
Okay. And then, just 15 months later,
yes,
I came along.
Yes.
And I love the fact that Karis and I got to be known as the little girls.
Yeah.
How did it feel to be a mother of 5, and with Karis and me being so close in age?
I don't know that I ever stopped to think about that. It's just life. You live your life day by day.
But didn't you feel like you were in the bathroom a lot because of the diapers, cleaning the diapers?
Well, that could be it anyway. Coming back out and having your breakfast table all smeared with jelly and Cheerios.
Just the life of, a mom.
The life of a mom.
But there was a pivotal point then for the family about leaving Omaha. You didn't know where you're going, or you were going to be leaving Grace, but didn't know where you were going. So.
Well, that was a challenge, like a wall in our lifetime where we didn't know what we were going to be doing next. We knew we were leaving Grace Bible Institute, so half the family stayed, the ones that were in school, stayed with a lady in a lady's basement, and I went to Minnesota to my folks with the little girls. And so anyway, our family was divided, not knowing what was next.
And Dad went to Iowa.
There was a gentleman, another gentleman, a minister, who asked whether he would consider taking a church, which then he said he would consider. So then they called me to see whether I would come, and so that we would be interviewed by this church. So we made our move to Donaldson, Iowa, so that Daddy could go to the University of Iowa,
Okay.
Iowa City.
And there you spent your days being a homemaker, and you had a garden.
Yes.
You liked to garden. Was it flowers and vegetables? I don't quite remember.
Yes, we had a big garden.
Okay. And in the album is a prayer you wrote for the family at that time. So can you read that?
Yes, it's amazing. This was 1962. My family. It was upon a bed of rest. I knew I met with thee. One was asleep beside me, some at work, another at play. O Lord, I prayed, they are thine, do thou befriend them. Do not let them go astray. It was thus I knew I had entered the Holy of Holies, for I had communed with thee. What satisfaction, peace and rest was mine, and so I pray, O Lord, let them, bless them, my family.
Thank you. Thank you for loving us and praying for us.
Yes.
So that was house 8 when that took place, and number 9 was Hillsboro. And one of the highlights of Hillsboro was that's when you celebrate your 25th wedding anniversary. And tell a little bit about the program, the 20th anniversary program.
The 25th anniversary program, you played violin. How old were you?
Well, I was 8.
You were 8?
Yeah, I think I was 8.
A violin solo. Wayne played a trombone solo. And Wendell and Joyce and Daddy and I played a clarinet quintet, a quartet. And so we had that with all kinds of pictures.
A slideshow.
And family, a slideshow, and we also sang as a family. So that was 25 years.
Yeah, 25 years. And then Daddy was asked to come teach at the seminary in Fresno. And when you got here, you met some people, you said, that were helpful.
Yes. We met the seminary people and the place, and I saw it, and I was pleased.
Okay. So God answered prayers.
Yes.
So we lived in the Townsend house. That's what we're calling the number 10 house. And after you moved, that's one of the things in the album, someone did write and say, we appreciated your ministry so much. Your sincerity and confidence in God's word was encouragement to us, and we do miss you. So after the move, people were missing you. What things were you involved with here once you got to Fresno?
We had faculty wives. So one year I chaired the faculty wives. Daddy was an interim pastor for a while.
At Bethany?
Bethany Church, and that's where we made our home.
Mm-hmm. But just a year after we moved, in 1970, Daddy was diagnosed with cancer. So
yeah.
How did you feel when that diagnosis first?
Well, at that time, he was complaining about his hip. And I says, well, why don't you go and have a chiropractic treatment? So he did. He went, and when he came home, you children, we all rushed to the door to see what the doctor had to say. So he kind of hung his head and said, nothing good. And he turned to me and said, I'll tell you later. So that's when he told me that they had found that there was cancer in the marrow of his bone.
And that was a hard year.
Yes.
And it was just a year later than that he passed.
Yeah, just 1 year later that he passed away.
And how do you, I mean, it's hard to describe like what that must have been like for you, but how did your faith at that
Well,
point?
I was always so dependent upon him in every way that my life was his, it lived into his so much that someone once said, we knew who Orlando Wiebe was, but we don't know who Mrs. Wiebe is. So I had to do my own, I had to totally depend upon the Lord. I continued working, which was good, that I had a job. I was working for the California Armenian Home.
Yeah, when we had talked before about it, at one point you had said you just had utter dependence on the
Yes,
Lord.
that's what I said,
Yeah.
utter dependence upon the Lord.
And that God had a higher plan.
Yeah, he had a higher plan.
Well, one of the things, because you were so dependent on him, is the fact that you actually never learned to drive. All these years, you didn't have a driver's license.
Nope.
So that was one of the first things
The hardest thing that I'd ever done.
you had to learn how to do.
Driving down Blackstone and Fresno was not fun. And when the driver trainer told me to go, now go on this, we're going to go on the freeway and you speed up, I says, oh no, doesn't going to speed up.
So God really had to help
Yeah.
there. But then you met somebody a few years later. When you were 55, you married Arnold Nickel.
Arnold was working for the Bank of America, and he approached me and he said whether he could take me out after church. And what he says, I had said, I guess it won't hurt. So I said, but please come to my house. Come pick me up from my house.
Well, and the reason I mean, you did meet Arnold and you got married, but what's so significant about the fact that you had not had your license, and then because Arnold was blind,
Yeah.
you ended up being the driver and
Total.
going on trips all across the United States and into Canada, and how much driving you ended up doing was just, and you did say that you consider that a miracle.
It is. Now when I think about it, it's just, I can't put my mind around it to see what I've come to.
What you were able to accomplish. And also when you married Arnold, you gained 2 daughters and 2 grandkids.
Yes, he had 2 married daughters, and one of them had 2 children. So I gained two daughters,
Sharon and Sandy,
2 grandchildren.
Dawn and Sarah. So when you married Arnold, house number 11 became yours together, and that was the garden house. And then you moved to the Woods Mobile Home Park, and you spent many years serving at Juvenile Hall. You taught English to Hmong families, you took computer classes, and you had been members still at Bethany Church together, which ended up being for 35 years. And you attended Bible Study Fellowship. In 2000, you turned 80 years old, and that's when we made the album for you. And one of the things that happened we had a program at your 80th, and Joyce's daughters, Tara Ann and Joelle, played the Old Rugged Cross. Why did you pick that one, that hymn? You love hymns, but why did you pick that one?
Well, I guess it is because that was the foundation of my faith in Christianity.
And they played strings.
Oh, yes. It was lovely. It was lovely.
Then you and Arnold decide to move to Reedley. You moved to the Kings River Mobile Home Park. That was number 13.
He was taken to Reedley because he was ill, to Palm Village. And I drove back and forth between Clovis and Reedley, back and forth until one time Wayne and Sheila came and they said, let's take a look around. You shouldn't be driving all this time, all this. So we went, and sure enough, there was one home that was available. The thing I remember about that is the family helping me move, going around the table with pots and pans, making a farewell band.
Oh, really? That's fun. Carrying on the music.
Yeah, carrying on the music.
So then after Arnold passed away January 15th, 2007. So now where we're at right now in this apartment that we're sitting in today is number 14.
Number 14, okay.
And in 2010 you turned 90 and you had a big party, your 90th birthday party.
Wonderful. Just about everyone was present of 51, 52. My family would number about 51 or 52 at the time. There were about only 2 or 3 that were missing.
Mm-hmm. So today the count, because I know you like to keep track, so we figured out that you had 5 kids and their 5 spouses. You have 14 grandkids and 10 are married. You have 25 great-grandchildren with 3 on the way. So that made 62 Wiebes from your 5 kids. And then when you married Arnold, that added 2 daughters, 2 spouses, and 2 grandkids. So your grand total as of today is 68. That has come from your and Daddy's marriage and being married to Arnold. One of the things you enjoy, and you say in the mornings you wake up and you'll have a song, you call them your morning songs, and you have created this ring on all those 3x5s of different songs. So tell me about morning songs.
Oh, the Lord has blessed me with waking up with songs in my mind. And then if I only have a little phrase of it, I either go to the hymn book to see if I can get the rest of it, or else I'll go to the computer and there I'll find it. And so there's always all these songs that I've kept track of that come in the morning.
You've shared stories today based on the many homes you've lived in. And when Grandpa and Grandma Klaassen's house sold in Mountain Lake, you wrote, "What remains? 1,001 good memories of life lived under God's goodness and blessings." And that's still true today, isn't it? Just your life has been under God's roof of goodness and blessings, and God has been the foundation of your life. And you've kept God as the foundation through prayer, through studying the Bible and memorizing. You love to memorize. And one of your favorite verses is Philippians 3:10. Can you?
That I might know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. Philippians 3:11.
And so what is your prayer for your family?
My prayer is that they may learn to know this same Savior that I've known, and that it might be a close fellowship, that they might personally know this relationship as their own.
Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that there's a verse in Deuteronomy that kind of captures your prayer, which is Deuteronomy 4:9. And it says, "Be very careful not to forget the things your own eyes have seen, nor let them slip from your heart as long as you live, but make them known to your children and to your children's children." And Mom, you have been very careful through your life not to forget the things that God has done for you. You haven't let them slip through your heart, from your heart. And just as a family, I want to say thank you for the gift of life you gave us and the gift of love. We love you so much.
It's been wonderful. God bless you all.
Thank you. That's good?
Yeah, perfect.
Yay, Mom.